Now, when dealing with a potential risk of a stroke or a TIA, it's very, very important that we educate our patients about the important risk factors. So, as you'll know, the current shift has moved towards empowering patients to take ownership of their own health. So, look at ways in which they can actually improve their health to prevent disease. And that doesn't always involve us prescribing medication or organizing tests. So simple things that we should be counselling our patients on include things like lifestyle changes, so making sure they do regular exercise. Normally would recommend sort of half an hour, 5 times a week, where the heart's racing and you are starting to feel a bit breathless and sweaty. Stop smoking. Smoking cessation is a huge part of the management of reducing the risk of stroke and transient ischemic attacks. Now, the reason for that is obviously smoking will cause increased furring of the arteries and more cholesterol builds up, and that can then lead to an increased risk of blockages of the arteries. Smoking cessation is interesting, so you should always touch on it in the consultation and then perhaps bring them back for a follow-up to discuss it in more detail, or indeed book them in with your practice nurse, because many of the practice nurses now offer great smoking cessation treatments, as well as monitoring the carbon monoxide levels in the blood. Other things to bear in mind, so alcohol. So you should be aware that in the UK, the safe units of alcohol consumption for men and women are now the same, and it's 14 units, which should be spread throughout the week. So lots of people try and get around it and say, oh, I don't drink much, doctor. I only drink on the weekends. But what you'll find is that they may have a few pints and a few shots and a glass of wine, and they're consuming a huge amount of alcohol on a Saturday or a Sunday. And actually, that's just as detrimental. So make sure they spread it throughout the week. And then important things to remember. So there are things such as making sure the diet is good. So cutting down on saturated fatty foods, going for sort of healthier alternatives like grilled food rather than fried food. Going for things like oily fish is quite good. Avoiding sort of snacks that are high in fat, sort of crisps and chocolates, and also going for low-fat versions of things like cheese and yogurt. So they're useful things that you can do. We've also included a list here of other things that you should be aware of, medical things that are very important that can increase the risk of stroke. Of course, the notable one is atrial fibrillation, but do have a look at this list and just keep it in the back of your head when you're reviewing these patients.